My name is Jerry Magruder. I was born in a hillbilly area, Campbell, Missouri, the year 1920. I'm a veteran of World War II, a graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy, and my service was from the period of 1942 through 1945. I have a background of ROTC in high school, all through high school, because I anticipated a war. Those were in the years 1937, 38, 39, Hitler and his movement, and his takeover of countries, the Germans. Could have been the end of the world as we knew it, the United States. And I was very disturbed about it, and I wanted to serve. I was eager to go. I planned on it. I wanted to go. I felt the things that were happening in Europe were wrong, wasn't right. Germany had to be beaten, and everything that could be done had to be done. If it meant giving your life. And when we declared war, I was very pleased to see that things were going to be right. I was attending Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois, and I was in a program called V12. And as long as you were in that, you were in a position where you could pick and choose what you wanted to do. You could go into the Navy, the Marine Corps, or the Merchant Marine. The training was intense. They taught us a variety of things, how to navigate, how to shoot guns from the bow of ships, stern of a ship, how to shoot a revolver, how to shoot a rifle. You had to be able to float for 45 minutes. You could float back on your back or swim or crawl. And one of the exercises was, there was a diving board about 2 stories high. You had to jump into that swimming pool with burning flames. Into the flames, the oil, there was oil there. It was a special pool that was set up so that if you were on a vessel and you had to jump into burning water, you could know how to swim, survive. After that preliminary training was a period of 6 months of very intensive training aboard ship. And you learn to shoot cannons fore and aft, and guns mounted on the bridge. You learn how to drop a depth charge, a system where they had a railing. You could push, they looked like big, huge garbage cans off of the stern of the ship. Here's a document of me being qualified for a lifeboatman. You're trained how to handle a lifeboat. If your ship catches on fire or some terrible accident occurs and you end up in a lifeboat, you've got to be able to take command and make the lifeboat work. During the war, people who sailed up to Murmansk, up north, I sailed, you could see icebergs. They were that close. And if you ended up by being torpedoed in a lifeboat, generally you would die in a few minutes from the cold and the ocean water freezing you. We created the greatest armada of ships in the whole world, the whole history of the world. We were building Liberty ships at a rate of one a day in the United States. There were shipbuilding yards in Jacksonville, in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, in Boston, in San Francisco, also inland. Special landing crafts were made. They could float into the Chicago River, the Mississippi River, and they go all the way down the Mississippi. Now, these Liberty ships were the workhorse of the Merchant Marine. They were built like bathtubs, but they had guns aboard, cannons fore and aft, and midships. When you're running in a convoy, there'd be 100+ ships. These ships would make up in New York Harbor, and they would cross the Atlantic Ocean. It would take us 29 days to get across, and we'd zigzag all the way. Each captain knew the exact latitude and longitude that he was supposed to be in when he started to change course. And the convoy was just running like that. A most thrilling sight to see these ships, 100+ ships. We would be 2 days out from New York Harbor, going east and moving at a rate of 7 knots, which is pretty slow. And as the convoy passed over, the German submarines would be waiting, and they would aim at the trailing in corners of the convoy, and they would call it Coffin Corner, because the submarines could move quite fast, surprisingly enough, and they would sink those ships, and it was deadly. I'll tell you of 2 experiences in running in convoys where the submarines were very active. There was a tanker with high-octane gasoline ahead of us. Now, this occurred off of the coast of Ireland. What would occur when a convoy would cross the Atlantic? They would split up and go into single file. One part would go into Liverpool, England, which had 400 berths for 400 ships, think of that. And the other part would go up to Scotland, or further, or up to other ports in Wales. And so this tanker with a high octane had 115 personnel aboard, and they were torpedoed. The gasoline exploded. They burned to death. There we were watching in single file going by, watching that ship. Another time, it was that same convoy. They attempted to torpedo us, but they didn't. We were strafed. A number of people killed. I was almost killed. And I recall those 2 incidences very strongly. I can think of I can even visualize it just by looking out at the Atlantic Ocean. As you know, we're only a quarter of a block from the Atlantic Ocean here. Now, I'd like to show you a report. This report was written by Admiral Land, who was the administration official who ran the whole war shipping for the whole merchant marine. This is a quote from the New York Times, June 9th, 1944. This was issued out of London. D-Day would not have been possible without the merchant marine. Now that the long-awaited day is history and great Allied forces have been landed in France, it is permitted to indicate the part played by these intrepid civilians, whose deeds, for the most part, have gone unsung. It is not generally realized that the merchant marine has the largest ratio of casualties of any branch of the services, and many of the names on the list are not classified wounded or missing. They were those men whose grave is the sea. Yeah, a lot of people were buried at sea. They put them in a canvas bag, and I saw several, and they'd slide off of a plank into the ocean. Yeah. Here's a quote from Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the signing of the GI Bill, which educated the Army, the Navy participants. The armed forces, they came back and got free education. Here's a quote, what he said in the GBI. He said, "I trust Congress will soon provide similar opportunities to members of the Merchant Marine who risk their lives time and time again during war for the welfare of their country." It never happened. The fact is, we weren't even veterans then. I did not become a veteran until 1985, even though I served during World War II. That's what happened to all of us. When the war was announced that it had come to an end, I was at the Merchant Marine Academy. I remember everybody went nuts. We were close to a swimming pool. Everybody was being thrown into a swimming pool. And that sort of thing. The war had ended. Everybody went crazy. The whole nation did. After the war ended, my feelings were the same. I felt it was a just war. It was a great war. Everybody in the whole country was united. And they were glad and happy that we had won. USA.